Hello, everyone. This is Nayiri from Low Carbon Fasting. And we have a charming, wonderful guest with us today. Her name is JoAnn McManamy. I need to pronounce that correctly. She has a bachelor's degree in communication from the University of Connecticut. She has MBA in management. She has a master's degree in counseling and psychology. She has a doctorate from the University of Connecticut. Dr. JoAnn McManamy, welcome to Low Carbon Fasting.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
I got exhausted reading your qualifications. How long did you...
It's what I did instead of having fun, you know?
I'm sure part of it must have been fun, but I'm interested in knowing where things went wrong. I mean, for someone who is intelligent, well-educated, very well-educated, for someone who would have had access to the best medical care and medical professionals, where did things start going wrong for you? Because you did eventually, as a middle-aged woman, end up with very poor health. But before it got there, I know it was a gradual process and it started from your early childhood. Tell us more about how that process of building, not good health, but ill health started for you.
Well, I had a lot of abuse in my family. And every time my mother, who was a narcissist, was competing with me constantly. And it just got to be too much. Every time I sassed her back, and I should have done it more, she'd smack me across the face and just devalued everything I did. If you weren't pretty or thin, and I was 7.5 years old, I was skinny as a rail at that point. And it was just before my first communion that I got the beating of my life, because she accused me of doing something I didn't do. In fact, it was incited by the little boy across the street. So from that day on, I kind of shut down. And when you shut down and you see the instability of the family, both of my parents were big drinkers, and you never knew what you were coming home to emotionally. It affected me. It affected my two younger brothers. So that's where it started. And that's when I started stuffing myself when I had a feeling. It was more the bad feelings when I was younger. It turned into every feeling when I was older. So that's where it started. And it was constantly, and this escalated through my life. I got fat at around 13, 14, like many young girls do. Didn't get any support. I was told I couldn't eat. And to be able to eat dinner in my home, which is probably why I don't eat dinner now, was because I had to weigh myself in front of the whole family. And I wasn't allowed to eat if I didn't weigh what my father thought I should weigh, which was actually, for my height of 5'5" at the time, was 125 pounds. I couldn't eat unless I was under 110. And this happened, and I was reasonably popular in high school. Nobody knew any of this that was going on, and I thought that was normal. That's the killer. I could not figure out that was normal. I just would always have fantasies about my mother's mother coming down and beating her up, which she never did. And nobody knew outside the family. My brothers knew. And we were able to start healing ourselves when we pieced it all together, got rid of our assumptions about each other. Well, they always liked you. I said, do you know why I did the things I did? It was for safety. And so that was very much a motivating point in my life. Well, fast forward, I got married to a medical student in 1971, and he played kind of the same game with me, but not quite as harsh. No, you've got to eat better. And I said, well, Jim, help me. Don't bring ice cream into the house. I want my ice cream. And so the marriage didn't last, obviously. And I stayed relatively around 140 until 140 to 150 until I was 40 years old. And then the weight just went up logarithmically. And over the course of several years, I got up to 280 pounds by 1990. So
Up to that point, you were eating for validation, for comfort, for safety.
For give me any reason I was eating.
Mm.
I was eating when I was happy. I was eating, well, I went through my doctoral program a little late and didn't get that until my 40s. I was overworking. I was working 2 and 3 jobs, studying all the time. I didn't have time for life. I didn't look to date after I gained the initial weight at age 40. I don't think I went out with anybody after that until, later. And it just was, I just forgot to live. I mean, at least if I wasn't going to be loved by my parents, I could be smart. But that didn't even get any recognition. My father, oh, the PhD in education is dime a dozen. Wonderfully supportive concepts like that.
Mm.
And then one day I got a job teaching at Harvard as a teaching assistant, not a teaching fellow. And I took him to Harvard and I showed him what I did. He never said anything after that. He was proud. And I could just tell it. He did. He told me he was proud of me. So my mother never did. So that was my life. That was my adulthood. And then I fainted in a museum after I moved to Florida. And
Let's stop there. But I want to take the audience back to your childhood, because some of the story, I mean, this was, okay, let's put it in context, as people would say these days. That wasn't the 2000s or the 90s. That was probably what, the 40s, 50s?
I was born in 1947, so it was 1954, August of 1954.
In the 1950s. But even in the standards of those days, would you say, as a psychologist, would you say that some of the things you went through at home built your sort of addictive behavior, or exacerbated, even if you had that addictive gene, as we now know one can?
No, I have, yes. So yes, we're all addicted. Yes, I think that I didn't have it before then. I wanted to get fatter at that point. I was a skinny 7-year-old, very cute. And, and it just, I was broken from that day on. Broken. Absolutely.
So you were working hard, you were studying, you were teaching.
Yeah, I was
studying. And you were a middle-aged woman, and you were getting bigger and bigger. And this isn't about size. You were getting unhealthier and unhealthier. Now, that is the important part.
And unhealthier. And now, during those days, I didn't want to go to a doctor. Sometimes I had no doctor. And now I have, I think, 11. And I didn't really care. I don't know. Psychologically, I can't even analyze what I was doing to myself because I'm too close to it. But I did not go to a lot of doctors until I moved to Florida, which was in 2012. And once I got here, I got here in June, and I was noticing some symptoms. And of course, I did nothing about them I got home from a trip to London where I kind of didn't feel right. And I got home, and several days later, I was in the hospital. What happened? I was totally calcified, had a trip. I did not have a heart attack. What I had was, I call it an episode or an event. That's the good news. I did not have a heart attack, but I had a totally calcified um, valve and atrial valve, and I needed surgery. And fortunately, I ended up at a good hospital in Ocala, Florida, and I was taken care of beautifully. And 9 days later, I left. I had 3 open veins. I felt marvelous. You know, you feel great. I felt great in the ICU after surgery. And it's like you're all opened up again.
Mm.
And it was wonderful. I was tired for a while, like maybe 2 months, but there was no pain. They ripped open my chest. I have the scar here, and I'm not going to show it to you. And but it's healed well, and I feel really good.
Would
So that was the wake up call.
wake up call. So would you say that that event metaphorically was the start of a new beginning for you?
Well, let's look. They were opening my heart. My heart was shut off for my whole
Mhm.
life. Um, and one of my friends said, well, sometimes a girl needs some mechanical help. And I just went on with it. My daughter just flew in from California, and she took care of me. And that was wonderful. She was angry at me, though, for being so careless with my life. But I'm good now. So at that point, my diabetes was not diagnosed at that point.
Mm.
I went another 5 years. Oh no, 2 years before the diabetes was, and that scared me, really scared me, because by that time I was doing a little research. So by 2017, I was totally off diabetes medication and had come under 200 pounds for the first time in since 1988. I was 1988, I became over 2 pounds, up. And now in July of 2017, I was under 200 pounds, and I was off all diabetes medications. I was on metformin and glipizide.
Mm. Undiagnosed diabetes, as a type 1, I
Yeah.
can relate to that. Of course, type 2 is a completely different disease, but undiagnosed means that you weren't taking medication, you
Nope.
weren't probably engaging in any sort of dietary changes because
Nope.
you didn't know you had diabetes. So that hyperinsulinemia and hyperglycemia probably,
Probably went
I'm not
along
a
for 10
physician,
years
I'm
before.
not a physician, but it probably caused your heart.
Oh, my doctors are convinced of that.
Yeah, there you go.
They're
Mhm.
convinced of that. And it led to also arthritis,
Yes.
which I had in 2007, but I got rid of that fast. And what other things? No, it was really, really, really bad. And so, you know,
So up to your weight gain or up to the heart disease or the heart event, did you try to do anything to lose weight? I know you.
I would go to my general
Mhm.
practitioner, who was a vegan.
Right.
This standard rule: eat less, move more.
Move more. Yeah.
And nothing. I absolutely nothing. But I knew in my childhood, I had an aunt that was a nurse, and she told me about low carb in 1965. You go, oh, why didn't you do that? But everybody was saying it was not healthy. Everybody I was listening to, I did not have the rigor of research reading at that point. But there were times, I would do low carb, But again, I never put the faith into it until 2017, when I signed up for a package with a naturopath. And I knew he was good because my diabetes group would have him in to speak. And I
Mhm.
said, well, this makes sense. Let me give it a try. And within not 3 months, I went from like 200, around 200, high 190. So let's say 197, all the way down to 175 pounds. I reached about this time 5 years ago.
Isn't it fascinating that it took a chiropractor or a naturopathic
Well,
doctor?
he's both, actually. It took a chiropractor, and the weight just dropped. And I was eating all things I like. And he had a list, and, eat from this, eat from that. It was fantastic. And I held that weight pretty well. And then I did another deep dive right before COVID. I probably was in the high 70s when COVID started. And I said, oh my God, what can you do to get your immune system up? That's when I started.
Yeah.
I asked the question, and then I started following podcasts. And one podcast led to another, and led to another, and led to getting me to go to conferences. And I just did exactly what I heard. I kept a low carb, a little higher fat. I took vitamin D
Mhm.
and zinc and a lot of vitamin C. And I haven't had COVID.
And probably increase your protein.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always
Carbs
love
are what you
protein.
would.
Oh, I always love protein. So yes, and started eating really good things. And then I got down to 150, and I kind of stay between 150 and 156. So I'm good. I'd like to get down a little more, and that's what I'm going to be working on now. I thought I would do it earlier, but it didn't happen because life happened. And so that's it's the only way for me to eat.
Mhm.
And I've been educating my doctors.
So I'm sure you're referring to the doctors outside the low carbohydrate community, right?
Well, a lot of my doctors, it's I go to the University of Florida, where I have to get serious doctors. It's a commitment, it's a ride. My cardiology is all up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I trust the 3 doctors I have up there. Well, probably it's 5 if you look at it. I have 3 cardiologists, but I shouldn't need to see the other 2 for a while. But I have the best cardiologist. I have a hematologist. That's wonderful. I have anemia, and the 2, yeah. So I'm good. And
I love when you mentioned earlier on that back in the 1960s, one of your family members who was a nurse at the time told you about low carb. And you see, I was
been
like,
out for a long time.
and people nowadays think it's fad diet or it's this new thing. It can't be
No,
safe. When I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it was 1978.
yes.
1978, 44 years ago. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And apart from obviously being prescribed insulin injections, which I still have to take to stay alive, my mother was given a list of foods. These are the safe ones. These are the ones to avoid or to limit. And the limit sort of list included sugars, cakes, cookies, but also rice, bread. And this is how my mother raised me when I was very, very young. The focus was always on low carbohydrate vegetables and protein and limited amounts of rice and limited amounts of bread. I don't know when things completely went out of control.
I don't. I mean, there are a whole lot of years there, and I don't remember and I should research this for you. The first person who I read about low carbohydrate, it was pre-Atkins. It was way
Mhm.
pre-Atkins. Atkins came out in the, well, it was somebody, and then when I was in college in the late 60s, it was also another thing. And it was, I think that's when Atkins came in. So
Mm.
yeah, it's been around for years. It's just not really been popularized. But I read a book when I was still teaching high school then. So let's say the early 70s by William Dufty, Sugar Blues. And that got me thinking about it again. And still no integration. So I hold myself responsible, but also forgive myself. So, but now I'm right at it, you know. It's just the only way I can stay really healthy, keep my blood sugars low, keep my A1C low, and my fasting insulins, and all the
Mhm.
other things my doctors test me for. So
So your heart is in a healthier place at the moment
the
because
heart
of the low
itself is
carbohydrate.
up. The heart itself is healthy. The arteries and veins have calcified,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I have to watch that. I have nitroglycerin that I carry around with me, but I've never taken it.
Mm-hmm.
The-
Well, let's talk about some of the other health benefits other than the heart.
oh my God.
The
The
arthritis went away.
The arthritis went away. I had the arthritis in 2007, and I hit it with everything at that point. That's when I started going back to the doctor.
Mm.
And I didn't get much out of traditional medicine, but I did get a lot out of the prescribed physical therapy. I had an excellent physical therapist, and I was still living in Boston, and that was good. And then I said, well, what else can I do? And I found this crazy guy in Lexington, Massachusetts, who does Tweenaw massage. And he said to me, oh, this is big. And he didn't say anything about diet, but he said, let's try this. And after the first treatment, I was feeling wonderful. He said, it's going to be 12 treatments any way you look at it, because you will tighten again.
Mm.
And it just was as if I had a bunch of elastics all rolled up together, and he had to take them kind of down layer by layer. Very effective. By the time I finished with him, I was almost walking without my cane.
Mm.
And ultimately, the cane went away. I kept the cane for about a year. So ultimately, I went without the cane. And it's about, sometimes I get a flare, but not often. I'm
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
Good. Well, your diabetes was reversed.
My diabetes was reversed, and with the diabetes came a lot more mental clarity.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
this, you know, the research, that's what they're researching now, but I can assure you, I'm not the crazy cat lady my brothers used to call me. Um, yeah, I'm much more focused. I've noticed a little slippage. What I'm concerned about now is the dementia. And I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but I do things that keep me sharp. And I eat and I exercise. I do the best that we know how to do given this day. Um, and but I'm much better than I was. I have much better focus, which
Mhm.
I was kind of like a little flighty. And actually, my mood is much better. I don't snap at people anymore.
True. And that's all due
I don't
to
want to scream.
normal glycemia, normal blood sugars, and not up and down, up and down. That would keep you mentally sharp and that would keep your mood stable.
Exactly. So that's the one my brothers noticed the first. Was I said, well, how have I improved? No, other than I look better. But they zero right in on my cognition. So
Blood, I've been following you online. Well, I've been following you, and I was just so delighted that you were the first person I bumped
Yes,
into
we
at
saw
the
him in
most
San
recent,
Diego last week. Yeah.
at the most recent low carb conference in San Diego. I was just so, oh, of course, you're easily identifiable. I was just so delighted. I came to sit right next to you, and we
talked for a
shared
while.
ideas.
Yeah. And
I appreciated sort of knowing you in person, and we have a photo. I have a photo with you as well to share it. So,
yes.
what do you eat now to maintain your good health? What sort of that? I mean, for people your age or wherever they are in their journey, it's never too late. Whatever
It is
your age, it's
never
never
too
too late.
late to get better. Never.
Never too late. Never too late to get
You
better.
start right now. Your point of power is now, and do it. I didn't think I'd live past 65. I didn't think I'd get out of the hospital when I was taken in on, and I'm very, very grateful for it. But it is never too late. And there are two things. It's never too late. And really, really, sometimes you might not want to listen to your doctors on some things, especially when they're selling you research that is not really good research, like that, Eve. And so, yeah.
So, what do you eat now on
Oh,
a
what I eat? Yes.
typical day?
Okay. I basically exercise first, have coffee, do my exercise. I still don't do enough. I have to do more exercise, but then I come home and my favorite breakfast is bacon and eggs, or a variant of avocado toast, which I make on base culture bread. And it's not addictive to me. So I have one piece of that with avocado, salmon, or sometimes I throw a tomato on it. I still like tomatoes. At lunch, I usually have a protein salad. I throw in a lot of green vegetables. I have pickles, olives. Sometimes I throw in some berries. My favorite is blackberry. They can be addictive though. So I can only have 6. And sometimes some feta cheese. So basically a salad. Today we're eating a little later because my friend gifted me with a prime rib. So we're gonna have that about 4. So as long as, yeah, I get upset if I eat at night. I just don't sleep well. So that's kind of what I have. Either a salad or some salmon and a vegetable, or some chicken. But I'm not liking chicken anymore. So I go more for the beef. So.
And more importantly, you're not snacking every 2 hours, are you?
Well, I was, if I get off track, and I did this summer a bit because of a lot of travel, a lot of company. Yeah, I can't do the snacks. I can't do the snacks.
You do intermittent fasting, right?
I do. Usually get 16 to 18 hours fasting,
Right.
and I plan it through the day. And tomorrow I'm going out for dinner, and it starts at 5. I probably will just have an appetizer and take a doggy bag home for the next day. So,
what are some of the strategies that you have at home to keep yourself safe from addictive behavior towards certain foods?
oh, that's a tough question. I usually will take a walk when I want to go to the refrigerator. I have my routine about opening the refrigerator. I just do that from boredom sometimes. And I have to work on my boredom if I get bored. So I usually will go out, take a walk if it's not too hot. Florida is just awful this month. And or take out the ironing board and iron all the clothes I haven't ironed in a year, something like that, or do some paperwork. And I'm not always good. And sometimes I do have a snack. however, since I don't have anything dangerous in the house, it's a healthy snack. Could be a
I
piece
was
of,
going to come to that point here,
yes,
because I do the same. If I'm reaching out for something, well, it'll be the worst case scenario, it'll be peanuts. Right? I mean, I don't have anything else here. I don't have any candy or cakes or cookies. So that's what it's going to be, or probably a slice of cheese or 100% dark chocolate chunk of it. So these are the worst sort of things that I can reach for. So I clean my environment from,
you have
yeah.
to, and what I do is also say no to a lot of social engagements, which is both good and bad. But unless they're the really important people in my life, then I make an adjustment, because it's the goodbye party for my friend who's leaving, and I gotta go. And it's with the neighborhood. So, but at least it's starting early and I go, but I don't really like to snack. That is an extremely slippery slope, even if it's done with hard-boiled eggs. And I try not to eat processed foods, only bacon that is uncured. So yeah, I don't really like cold cuts and those things. So.
The social events can be tricky, and that's when I find that people fall off the wagon usually.
Yeah, and it's in the holidays, and I'm about to start on some more travel. I'm flying to Connecticut on Wednesday to go to my class reunion, and it's just wonderful as many people are coming as they are, and then fly right back and then fly to London. London has good restaurants, so I don't get into too much trouble. So
Right.
Then come back and then take my senior citizen road trip up to New England.
You're busy. I mean, you're a busy woman, but you also have offer your services as a health coach. Tell us more about.
I do, and I really need to learn more. I'm thinking about doing the credentials of the Nutrition Network as soon as I settle down from traveling. And I do the health coaches, but it's more emotional fear-based stuff, and I go at it that way. I'm not qualified to really interpret things that are going wrong with people's bodies, and so I stay away from that. What I talk to them about is how to talk to their doctors.
Yes.
And how to challenge their doctors. And they have to do it far more tactfully than I do, because, I can fight back.
But you're a great communicator, and in fact, you have a background in communication and counseling and psychology. So
yeah, I just did all these things. I mean, I got an MBA because I was getting divorced and needed something to do. That was when I was still thin. So, and that was a lot of fun. But I did it for my father, actually. He didn't think the teacher was an important job. And I did it for him. And he got all mad that I just up-leveled to become a university professor. And that pissed him off. So, yeah.
You've had a wonderful career, and
I love teaching.
You love teaching.
I love teaching.
I'm a retired teacher now, took early retirement. So I love teaching too. It's my passion. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not as respected as it was when I was a secondary teacher. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I do have a few other questions. I'm trying to sift through them. Let's remind people how they can contact you or follow you before I ask my next question. So how can people even support you or, encourage you online?
I am on Twitter, but I don't really know how to use Twitter. So, but you can try. It's Dr. McManamy, at Twitter, and Dr. McManamy on Instagram and Facebook. It's just JoAnn McManamy.
I'll put all those details in the show notes below so people can follow you directly.
Yes, I love that. And they, I can handle questions, but basically I empower women with my coaching,
Right.
especially. And I am counseling a few people on diabetes. When, a man at coffee said, well, I'm going home to have my oatmeal. And I said, you just told me you have a good diet. And he goes, oh, we'll have to get together. I'm interested in what you have to say. So, yeah, I just.
Well, unfortunately, we're surrounded with these misconceptions that, oh, you have to eat your, what we call porridge, right? Porridge in England, or oatmeal for yourselves. You have to eat that. And as long as you're not having milk with it, you're having almond milk or something, then you're going to be healthy. It will spike your blood sugars, or honey as an alternative to sugar, right? People say, oh, it's natural, it's normal. I've done it. I can see the direct impact with the CGM. I can see the impact. It just shoots right up my blood sugar. So people still believe. I know the low carbohydrate is sort of becoming more prevalent now. And if someone wants to find out information, it's out there.
It's
right?
out there. I can show them where to go. I can put it into kindergarten language.
Yes.
You have to be able to do that. And but even my friends, a friend of mine had cancer, and I said, I want you to get off all sugars.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not from a scientific background, and she said, but I don't believe in that. And I said, it's not what you believe or not believe. The research is there. You don't want to feed cancer with sugar, glucose, fructose, any of that. You just don't want to do it. And I stopped trying to save my girlfriends. That was a big lesson. I want to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want me to.
Or even try and help
your
immediate family members. Unless they come to you, it's very difficult to influence everyone else. I mean, a lot of people at the conference, we heard those questions. How do I make my son, my daughter, my sister adopt this lifestyle? It will do them good. How can I influence them?
Just live your life, and
you cannot. Yeah.
Just live your life and look good. And I've got a friend who's not really doing well now, and she would always get nasty with me every time I suggest something. And that was my big thing. I tend to be proselytizing, so I've had to back, really step back.
Mm-hmm. I don't engage in sort of debates or arguments about, a bit vegan diet, vegetarian. And I have been, I was vegetarian for 30 years. I never preached it to anyone. I never told anyone they shouldn't be. I cooked meat every single day. I didn't eat it. I cooked it for my family. But that's not, I never engage in sort of arguments, because it will eventually turn into an argument. There's no need for it. I think if people want to find out the right information, unbiased science, it truly is out there. It is out there.
And they don't take the step.
No.
They don't take that step. Maybe because they don't really know how to read research or what, but.
That is a question I have in my notes. How do we make the research accessible to all?
Well, that's a good point. How do we make it accessible? Because it's sometimes very expensive for them to get at it, and they don't live near an academic library where they could simply just walk in.
But even intellectually accessible. I mean, a lot of this research is out there, and they're not behind the paywall. Well, I share these things with my family members, and they say, oh, that was beyond me. That was just too scientific. What's the summary? Give me the summary.
and you can't do that because then you can't critique the research. As you heard, Gary and Nina really talk about, what's the methodology?
Yes.
How is low carbohydrate defined? That is the one that's really horrible. Oh, low carbohydrate with 100 grams of carbohydrate.
100 grams of carbohydrates is
it's not a low carb diet.
with,
And how they don't define Mediterranean diet.
Oh, that's another one that drives me crazy. Eat Mediterranean diet. What is the Mediterranean? I've traveled to every Mediterranean country, every single one.
Every good study has to have good what's called operational definitions. They're not there.
No.
They're
funded.
Start there.
And a lot of them are funded.
I taught research courses for many years. You just go into the questions. You might, give them a case like Ansel Keys. I mean, this is from my teaching, but which I did. And I said, okay, this is medical research, but it doesn't matter. You're going to see all the egregious errors in doing research in this study. And it was very good because my student did pick up on most of them. And what's wrong with this? What's ethically wrong with this? And I don't know how to take a person who has not had a research course, at least, unless we can get out some books, or I feel like almost going and teaching it in high school at this point, just volunteer, and get the word out.
I think there is a need for podcasts. And there is also a need to simplify the information.
I mean, doctors talk in their own language. And
And there is a place for that. But
absolutely, but there's a place for dissemination also. And I don't say it's on their responsibility totally. But to get some good books, things made simple. I mean, I'm reading Biochemistry Made Simple because I want to understand the nuances and the structure of some of the scientific research. And, I'm not there. I'll never be there in this lifetime. But it has helped immensely for me to at least get a structure to hang the ideas on, and have a basis to talk to my doctor. My cardiologist explains everything. He's perfect, but some of the others, I had to fire a doctor because she wouldn't write me a fasting insulin test. And then
which is one of the most important tests.
Oh, but she didn't get it. I said, you don't see, and I was going with what I understood. And she was threatened and she yelled at me, and that was the end of it. Doesn't happen. I don't go back when they yell.
It's not routinely offered in the UK either, fasting insulin. And yet, if you test someone's fasting insulin and it is high, it could be a sign of insulin resistance, which will eventually lead to type 2 diabetes and other diseases, including dementia.
Oh my God. It's like, that's why I just, watch that insulin, and it's not, mine isn't as low as I want it to be, but at least it's in almost. Yes. But, people the doctors don't do it. But I want to get back to your question. How can people be better readers of research? And you see these studies that are on broad-based, new study shows eggs are bad, and people go, well, what's right? Well, you've got to read real primary research, not the sensationalist stuff.
True.
I never take my nutrition from the television.
No, I was about to say the mass media also plays a role.
Horrible. I mean, the New York Times is not the paper it used to be.
Or even the Washington Post or the Telegraph, as we have it, they all come up with sensationalized headlines. And that's People don't go beyond that. That's it. They
Don't
sit
go beyond it. I don't, are they lazy? Perhaps. Do they not know what that means? I heard it on the news. Well, what? Or I read it on the internet.
Yes.
The internet is a library.
Right.
What source? It's the lack of discrimination is hard with a population. So it's really over my head to totally answer that question. I can do what I can do. I can explain research. I can explain the importance of operationalizing your definition, writing a strong problem statement, have airtight methodology, and then draw the conclusions from your data, not your opinion.
True.
Some of the well-known examples were that Minnesota study. Well, I hid the research because it didn't go the way I wanted to. And that was highlighted in the conference we just attended. So it's a great question. And I don't know, in the American Diabetes Association, I took a couple of their classes after I was diagnosed. Fortunately, I had a really good dietitian who just really, set me straight.
And they've only recently included the low carbohydrate diet as an alternative, an option. It's not the default recommendation,
no,
but at least it's included on the website, and the same with the UK Diabetes Organization.
Yeah, they've gotten a little more flexible with that, but when they're still recommending 45 grams of carbohydrate per meal, and are suggesting as many processed foods, no, thank you.
If you look at the food photos, and people are attracted, they are appealing, they're good, they look good, and you can see the portions of pasta, massive portions. I remember in my carb eating days, I would easily eat 90 to 100 grams of carbs in one meal. 80 grams would be either the rice or the pasta, and then 20 further grams for fruit, because I thought that's the healthy dessert I can have after the meal. 20 grams of fructose, glucose, because I thought fruit was healthy. Well, for a type 1 diabetic. It's not healthy for anyone, but for a type 1. It was disastrous. I didn't have a CGM, of course, but I think the CGM is a game changer. It gives you...
Yes, it gives you the feedback.
Feedback straight away. You can see the consequence of what you've just put in your mouth right away within, I would say, 20 minutes.
Yep.
It's wonderful. But it's shocking.
And they don't want to give it out. And
isn't that shocking that they don't, some physicians are just against it. Oh, patients don't need the data.
Really? See, that's the arrogance, the physician. Patients don't need.
Yes.
Who are you to tell me what I know I need? You have to really,
That's the assertive attitude I like. So, Dr. McManamy,
they're gaslighting us.
Yes, that is gaslighting.
Gaslighting us, and I would not ever put up with that with anybody. So
true.
Yeah, you keep searching sometimes when find one, and unfortunately they leave too soon. So
well, unfortunately, that also leaves, if your doctor isn't working with you and supporting you, that leaves a lot of people. I know in my community, there are a lot of type 1 diabetics who receive, including myself, who receive absolutely no support from our endocrinologist. And we should. I mean, the most positive statement that my diabetes consultant in the UK has told me is that keep doing what you're doing. That's it. That's
not in your way.
At least he told me that, but Wouldn't it be nice if he could engage more and work with me and perhaps teach me a few techniques of insulin management that perhaps I'm missing? I learned from other people. I learned through trial and error.
Well, that's why we've got to build our groups. And an outgrowth of BOCA is we have a group here that was founded by two people I met there, and the group is growing and it's excellent. And all the questions get answered, and that group meeting is in 2 days. So I'm looking forward to it and telling them all about San Diego. But yeah, but it's a whole panoply of variables that, you know, I'm trying to draw a diagram of what needs to be done, because the mentality that so many people have is that their doctors know everything.
Yes.
And that is very dangerous.
And before we, the patient population, learned more about our health, the doctors did know everything. I mean, I can't say that my grandma, for example, or even my mother would have known more than the doctors she visited in her life. She didn't. But now information is out there. And quite often we know certain things which our doctors may not know. I have to be careful with my words here, but we know more about the diet side of things. Our doctors don't know. Our physicians do not understand nutrition.
No, they don't. And you know, it's funny. I started out as a nutrition major, my first 2 years of college, and then I transferred to the big university. So, and a whole lot of the stuff that's just coming out, I learned as a freshman in college also. So, you know, it's protein sparing. I learned all about that. I learned about the best that was known about vitamins at that time. In fact, I'm leaving money to my first college for its nutrition department. And but I have to review the curriculum before I do it. It has contingencies on it, you know.
True.
Yeah.
Well, you're a charming communicator. You're a very agreeable, personable person. And you're also very assertive. You're dedicated. You're committed to something. You set yourself goals, and you just
I achieve them. Yes,
achieve them. You've had many amusing stories in your life, which really reflect your character, actually. Tell us some of those, and we'll wrap it up with some of your amusing stories. I can't stop laughing. I mean, you have a funny side to yourself.
I would love to have the courage to be a comedian, but love comedians. But you know, it's more coming into who I really am at this point in my life. I always was, you know, saw the funny side of everything, and used it in my teaching. But now I use it because it's part of who I am. And if people don't like it, well, they don't like it. And but I take emotional risks now, and that ties into that. It is, I have the courage to ask for what I want, where I never did before, seriously.
And to also cope with the rejection.
Cope with the rejection. You know, I don't know, you know, it's just so much easier to ask for what you want. And I got to go to London for the wedding of Meghan and Harry, because I just asked the TV station if they wanted my help, because I knew London well, and they got back to me, yes, absolutely, all these exclamation points. So I get to have a lot more fun because I do that. And
tell our audience, go back to the beginning of that is the funniest story I've ever heard. Tell our audience, you didn't work for the TV station. You were working as a journalist.
No, I never worked as a journalist. And here I am, an hour away from the television station in Orlando. And I was watching the news, and I found out they were sending this certain reporter and to cover the story. And, you know, I've been watching this certain reporter. I mean, I didn't have any relationship with her. And I just found a way to email her at the station and offer my services. I said, I hear you're going. I've lived in London. I go to London all the time. I really know the city. Is there anything I can do to help you?
Mm.
And that's how I approached it. And I said, no, then I did my yabbit talk. She's not going to respond, Well, 4 years later, she now is an anchor in another city, and I'm getting to see her on my senior citizen road trip as I drive up. I'll be stopping by Myrtle Beach and having a nice, I'll post that on Facebook.
But she did respond to your email.
She did respond. It was one of the best days of my life.
So you went to London with them?
Yeah, well, I met them there. Yes. And yes, I met them there and had a wonderful, wonderful time. And you just never know what's going to happen. And you have to leave yourself open. Then that leads to all the laughter, because you can't sit home being a fly at 75. You've got to go out. You have a lot. At 75, I have a lot of wisdom. And I always have to share it. And at 75, I will say yes to all things that please me.
Mm-hmm.
And, just getting on podcast, I asked Tony Hampton, I said, anything you need me to do, I'd love to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened. It happened. It happened. And then it happened again. I get, when you're open and you're fearless and you don't plan things, you leave yourself open for things to happen.
It does come down to confidence. And at this age, you've acquired that confidence.
I've acquired the confidence. I've got all the mental health stuff in the past. And for the last 10 years, I've just had fun. I keep waiting for Mick Jagger to contact me because I back up in the Rolling Stones is still left undone. Hello, Mick. I'm here.
Right.
But
one more goal to achieve.
I gotta put some more in there, but I haven't as yet.
So what exactly would you like to do with Mick Jagger?
I would like to sing one song with him, honestly.
Amazing goal. Now we are going to finish with this goal, and hopefully next time I have you on my podcast,
Anytime.
Yeah, achieve this goal, and we can talk more about that antic.
We'll just see what comes up. Hey, I'm going to England next week. I'm going to have 2 weeks. I'm going to have a wonderful time.
Thank you so very much for accepting my invitation. I'm sure my audience will appreciate you and your insights and will love your character.
Well, I am a character.
You are.
Yes. Well, this is wonderful. Thank you so much.